Warning: World Weary Podcasts occasionally discusses mature themes and uses colorful language.
Row after row of glass jars, their horrific contents illuminated by an eerie green light. A hand, a head, an eye, imprisoned in murky liquid, foul-smelling, decaying. Creatures, plants, human organs, all captives of a dark laboratory. As you turn the corner, you hear the clink of test tubes, the bubbling of a brew, and the cackle of laughter. Two witches stand at the cauldron, one grating a large bone into the mixture, the other stirring with a giant spoon. As she stirs, she chants the spell.
I have newt, toe a frog, rate, review, and subscribe to World Weary Pod.
Welcome to World Weary, a podcast where two ladies who, amongst other things, talk about extraordinarily fucked up stuff. I'm the British one, Violet Starr.
I'm the American one, Cassiopeia Walker.
Christ, have you got anything you want to vent before we start? Possibly something that may not seem so bad by the time we've finished today's stories.
Ooh, what have I... Well, I don't have too much to be upset about because I've got a 4-day weekend coming up, so that's really nice. But yeah, if I think about it, probably... I don't know, I've been exhausted for no reason for a couple days.
Fatigue.
Just exhausted. And just not with doubting, self-doubt. You know, when you get in cycles of self-doubt and you're like, maybe I'm not the cool witch that I think I am. Maybe I'm actually just a prick face who's worth nothing. And you struggle with that inner voice. So yeah, I had to stamp that out.
Yeah.
And so that's what's been myself has been getting me down this week.
Trying to only hear the good voice inside you, not the nasty voice.
I'm trying to locate it. You know, you locate the voice and you go, wait a second, you aren't correct. That's not me, you know, and you just ignore it the best you can. What does RuPaul say? RuPaul says, like, you can look, but don't stare.
Oh, yeah.
You recognize it and then you shuffle it away. I really love RuPaul.
I've got something I want to talk about at the very end, but before we start, I've been worried about my sugar intake this week.
I've been eating so much sugar.
I mean, it's like I rarely drink fizzy drinks. I don't take sugar in my tea and coffee often. I try not to have too many desserts, but I'm like a hummingbird when it comes to snacks. It's just like all of those yogurt-coated cranberries and dried pieces of mango add up till I'm probably eating more sugar than I would have if I'd just been having a chocolate binge. And then what's even worse is then I go round to a friend's house and they've prepared a lunchbox-sized Tupperware tub of assorted chocolates.
Oh, wow.
And they're like, do you want some? I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And I had at it.
Yeah, because you're I think we have similar self-control things where, like, we're trying to do better and we make healthy choices, but then we're presented an opportunity and we just strike. I'm so bad. I've been drinking so much, soft, fizzy drinks and terrible things.
We just have to pick our vices.
I stopped exercising again. I need to get back into it.
Yeah, I don't know. It just made me feel a bit rubbish the next day. Maybe I can eventually grow out of eating so much sugar. Hello. If this is your first time listening, hello again. I am the archaeologist anthropologist person, and this here is my podcast buddy, my co-host, the self-taught, multi-talented chaos witch, singer-songwriter, and semi-pro gamer. Pro gamer.
They pay me.
We specialise in the weird, the woo-woo, the otherworldly, and the downright extraordinary. We have tackled thus far, cursed chairs, pirates, poltergeists, plagues, gnomes, clairvoyants, magicians, cannibalism, colonialism, goatmen, catmen, dinosaurs, alien breeding programs, the devil, and loads of weird old men. And this episode will be no less interesting. every episode we take turns to pick a topic. So today I invite you all to enter the Potions Vault. So basically today we're going to talk about weird remedies and curative potions.
Yes, curative is a generous word from what my research has taught me.
Was this episode inspired by a certain Harry Potter game? A certain wizarding game? Maybe, but we're not sponsored by them.
No, so they don't get any mention.
No, I don't...
We gotta chastise ourselves. If fast food companies were hyping up us to like talk good about them, they had better send me some coupons.
Definitely.
Popeyes.
When we were playing this game recently that we've been addicted to, which is very magical, I'm not a very competitive person. I don't really take games too seriously, but I do try hard, especially if I can make Cassie a bit grumpy. And so,
because I'm super competitive, I'm the opposite. And with Violet, there's no winning because you don't care.
Yeah, and I just get, because I don't care, I often get just some blind, crazy luck and fortune in a game. The worst. So I was there like, oh, I just caught a baby unicorn.
It ran away from me.
She didn't get the baby unicorn, and I just rubbed it in her face.
Yes. But you're probably the only person who can do that without me flying into a crazy competitive rage, because I know it's not worth it. You're like, what can I describe
That's
Violet?
the way to put it.
Violet is like she's got a suit of armor, so to speak, that is impenetrable when it comes to me. Like, I could throw words at her. Normally, I can use my words. I've always been that person to either make a joke at somebody. If I do it with Violet, she decimates me. Ancient Roman fucking horrible decimations me. That's what she does. So I learned not to mess around, but I still get aggravated. It's like when I found out she's a more handsome guy than me. A more handsome, masculine person.
Who is it that I look like again?
Mr. Robot. Rami Malek.
Yes.
And I, meanwhile, look like the troll dude from the Fraggles. Mommy, I caught a Fwaggle!
You look like Nicolas Cage's younger, more crazy brother.
I look like Nicolas Cage's balding younger brother who's
living off Nicolas Cage's
and
money.
And he's part-time car salesman, and he maybe has a girlfriend who he got pregnant.
You know what it reminds me of is, oh God, what's it? The lawyer from,
Better Call Saul.
Yes,
oh my God, that's what I was!
Saul! You look like him!
I look like and I look greasy as well. I look totally like a guy who would be typecast as a greasy person.
You totally look like a struggling car salesman. You have to find that
picture and just put it on the Instagram.
Okay, yeah.
Maybe not, actually. I don't want to... I look so cute in real life, and I don't want to...
Maybe we'll save it one day when we eventually have a Patreon.
Yes, and the Patreon people can...
That'll be how we get you to subscribe to that. As we'll release some very disturbing photographs.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. Potions. I used to make potions when I was a child. Tell me about your potion making, because I'm sure you also were a potions kid.
When I was 12... I made a love potion to get the future man of my dreams, because I was pragmatic even then. I was just like, look, I'm not ready for a relationship right now, but in the future...
You were doing some practical magic stuff.
Yes.
You were like baby Sandra Bullock, like wishing on the stars.
It was literally that, because I'd seen practical magic and all of that stuff. So I grew up with that and my weird family. So I would sneak out of the house. Sorry, parents, if you listen. I would sneak out of the house and just go to the backyard and use my potions and stuff in the moonlight. And it was literally me grinding flowers together and mixing it with water and oil and butter and stuff and like saying it has this kind of magical attribute, and then doing the spell as best I could with what I had. Because I like would nick flowers from around the neighborhood, like rose petals, to do the love potion, like specific spells from the books, the coffee table books I told you about, Mysterious. They had spells in them in one of the spell books. Like Sweet. They had actual official love spells, so I would try those out. It worked in the end.
I started off with making potions in the bathroom sink as a toddler.
Whoa.
Using Radox bubble bath and all of my mum's fancy bath stuff and stirring multicolored bath
How much
around.
gross stuff did you drink in the name of magic?
I mean, we ate bath pearls. We was chewing on bath pearls. My sister, I think, filled like a sink with her little friend at the time when they were like 3 with makeup and lipstick and like
Oh my
they
gosh.
painted nail varnish on each other. I got a lot of stories about me and my sister doing weird
I
stuff
did
with makeup and shampoo.
I once used like a Sharpie to draw lipstick on myself, not realizing how permanent that was.
Oh
My mom was
God.
not best pleased.
A Sharpie
A
lipstick.
red Sharpie. I was like, you
Oh,
better work.
no.
Cover girl. I thought I was it. This was back when we were in the trailer. I thought I was it.
Then, after the bubble bath period of potions, I then moved on to the fairy potion thing.
Ooh.
You know, water and seeds and like weird little teacups and stuff and digging around the garden. I used to make my little sister eat like random weeds and like bits of grass and stuff and be like, oh, it has healing properties. And she'd be like, sure, I'll eat it. I did make crystal healing essence because I got... okay, this is why I'm qualified to talk about woo-woo stuff.
Here we
because
go.
I was seriously deep into crystal healing at like 9 and 10 years
We've
old.
talked about this.
Some clever adult, I almost think it might have been my stepmom, got me a pretty comprehensive adult's freaking level
Oh, cool.
crystal healing Bible. And because I love remembering little facts, and it was basically like Pokemon again, but just with crystals of different colours.
Wow.
I just learned all of the information, what did what chakra, what was good for like, I can still like remember like what citrine is freaking good for.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. You remember that hippie mutual friend of ours who said their garden grew crystals naturally?
No.
Uh,
Who was this?
so yeah, that hippie friend that basically she and her mom like claimed that crystals naturally grew from their garden,
Wow.
and it was
There's
magic
lot of
ley
crazy
line
witches
stuff.
in this town.
And it's funny because you would dig up random bits, like people would, they showed us, like they're like, you can go in anywhere in there and there's crystals everywhere. I don't know whether they planted them, but it was really weird.
Whoa. Yeah.
We live in a magical town.
It is a very magic area, isn't it? Magic
But you must
region.
have, you've got all the crystal knowledge in the same way that I know
Yeah.
prescriptions because my mom went to nursing school.
I was a child crystal healer. Like, I was doing, like,
Oh, cool.
chakras on, like, my cats and dogs and stuff. Like, putting the,
Oh,
like,
wow.
stones on the pets while they were asleep on the floor. But, yeah, there was, like, a whole section in this book about making healing essences and, like, crystal water and stuff like that as, like, a little potion. So I loved that. That was so, like, hipster. And then I was just very inspired by Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman.
Oh, wow.
You know, I think girls in particular, a lot of us, I don't know what it is about being the healer. Like,
It's like a stereotype in video games as well that women play healers. And I always played a healer. I don't know. It's just, you know.
well, it's kind of that like maternal
We're
caring
just so
thing
much
that-
better.
Yeah. But
We're all yellow Aja.
being a healer is cool, and it's like what I wanted most out of being recognised as some kind of healing,
Yeah.
crystal healing kid when I was like 10 or 11. Was
See, I freaked out all my kids by doing palm readings and charging
Oh yeah,
50 cents.
I used to. Oh my god, I did some really cringy things in my crystal healing phase. I would like tell kids I knew like what their like aura stone was. I kind of did. I was like
Yeah.
going intuitively of
No,
like
but
what
that's the
color
thing.
I felt they represented, but
I would tell people their aura colors.
people
and shit.
must still like talk about like that weird kid from that. Do you remember that weird violet kid that used to go on
Probably,
about
yeah.
crystals and stuff? God. But yeah, no, I think what I like about being seen as someone with healing capabilities or the knowledge is like that respect of like, oh, you've got the like
the touch.
the cool freaking herbal witch knowledge.
Yeah.
That's like cool and admirable. What's your go-to medicine?
My medicine is for oh gosh, I do a lot of relaxation to try and counteract the stress of daily life. So a lot of breathing exercises. You know me, I'm quite quick to anger, quick to cool. I'm one of those. I should have been, you know, I don't know, like in like a novel by Jane Eyre, I would be like the tempestuous young woman who just can't, who's a free spirit, but in an age where it's not.
You're a bit of a
Okay.
shrew, you know. Like you could be a little bit fighty, but
Oh yeah.
you're small.
Morgan's
and cute.
life is taming me. Yeah, my healing, I do a lot of like, if I really, it's kind of, this is the thing, I'm so glad we have this podcast, because most of the time when I say something like, oh, I'll literally get some sage and burn it if I think I'm cursed, and like try and self-heal in that way. If I'm really, I haven't had to go to the hospital or the doctor for anything serious anyway, but I wouldn't be above it. I would combine modern medicine plus all my woo-woo stuff.
Oh yeah, that's what I like to do. Holistic, I think.
Yes. Yeah, I like the holistic stuff, but I'm not going to hedge all my bets on it.
No.
I'm not going to raw food my diet into an early fucking, you know what I mean?
For me, for getting rid of the stress, it's going into nature.
Yes.
But also coupled with ibuprofen.
Yes.
Is great. Anthosan, which is insect sting, like nettle, stingy nettle cream. You put it on like itchy bites and stuff.
Okay.
Germaline, antiseptic cream.
Yes.
That's brilliant stuff. Rennies.
Yes.
If you have a bad curry, have a Rennie. That'll get you to sleep. Pseudo cream, associated with nappy rash. But just handy stuff to have. Get a bit of chafing in the summer. Whack on a bit of pseudo creme.
Yeah, you gotta have all those things. Vicks.
Oh yeah, Vicks is good. In fact, thinking of pseudo creme, that's another younger sister story in which she painted her entire bunk bed with a pot of pseudo creme.
No.
Yeah, painted. She was covered in it. Like white, thick cream, like nappy rash cream. Painted an entire bunk bed with it.
Why?
Sorry, Chloe. Cocktails. That's a modern potion.
I really need to sit and have a coffee with your sister at some point. She's so fascinating. She's too cool, isn't she? I'm always like, she's too cool.
She's cool.
You guys don't understand.
We're both very cool. We're both like little Wednesday Addams.
It's so true, though. What would you describe me as? Like, be completely honest. If you can describe me as the closest kind of character in a movie or series or book or whatever that I would recognize. You can be mean.
Nicolas Cage. No,
wow.
No, you're not Nicolas Cage.
I take it back. You can't be mean. It's hard, isn't it? It's hard.
Cocktails. Adult potions.
Yeah.
What's your favourite cocktail?
Some kind of gin and tonic. That's easy for me.
My favourite cocktail, I didn't like to drink, but I just like the concept of it, was when I worked at a pub called the Cross Keys. It's very English. And they had a special version of the Jaeger bomb.
Oh, I've never had one of those.
Yeah, it's like Jägermeister. It was that herbal alcohol stuff. And then like a shot of that dropped into like a glass of Red Bull. But instead of Red Bull, they did really cheap, strong bottled cider.
Oh.
Classy. Real classy. If you could make a magic potion, what would it be?
A potion to get people to rate, review, and subscribe. Not gonna lie, I'm thinking selfishly.
The nearest I think I get to like really feeling potions at the moment is at work. In my drawer, I have a tube of effervescent vitamin tablets.
Ooh.
Like Barocca kind of things.
Yeah.
Like you, but on a good day. And I like get my little mug of water, put my effervescent tablet in it, and it changes colour and bubbles away.
Yeah.
I'm like, ooh, 2019 witch with my vitamins. Okay, let's get into it.
Oh shit, here comes the story. I'm actually very scared.
In fact, I'm just going to have to pause it very quick. I am going to tell you about something that I only learned when I went to university.
Oh no.
This is back in like 2011, 2012. I had never heard of this before.
Wow, so that definitely means I'm never going to hear.
And it horrified me. But probably it was like the most memorable lecture I sat through as an undergraduate. Because I was just there at the end of the lesson with my jaw dropped, like, people did what? Like, what the fuck? Okay, so that's this is my emotional starting point. I've been waiting to talk about this for like years. My story starts off with bitumen. What is bitumen, Cassie?
I have no fucking clue, and I'm not going to try because I'm going to come up with the wrong answer based on how that sounds.
Bitumen is basically asphalt.
Okay.
Okay? Naturally occurring, sticky, semi-solid petroleum stuff.
Oh, okay.
Comes out of the ground like kind of tarry, like little black rocks. And you can like, I think, heat it up into like a liquidy, sticky stuff. Looks like treacle.
I'm disappointed in my geology knowledge. Disappointed.
And nowadays we know it because you can manufacture like asphalt from crude oil, I think.
Okay.
And we make things like asphalt concrete for like roads, which is like just asphalt, sticky black stuff mixed up with like crushed gravel.
Right.
That makes asphalt concrete.
Sweet.
People have been digging this asphalt up for thousands of years. It was used for waterproofing stuff and as a mortar for building since at least 5000 BC.
Wow.
Ancient times, deep in the BCs. Also, people used it as a kind of glue. It was your ancient equivalent of a Pritt stick or super glue. At one point, so I think 12th dynasty maybe, the ancient Egyptians used it in the embalming process on mummies. So not only is it like a sealant glue, but I guess because it's kind of like tar kind of thing, I think there must be some preservative quality about it. It was rare and hard to obtain. So it was a valuable resource, and people, including the Greeks and Romans, etc., were making maps of where you could mine it, like the Dead Sea, because it was of strategic importance. It was so useful. You need to waterproof all those ships and buildings, etc. In fact, the first recorded human battle over a hydrocarbon deposit, doesn't that put it in perspective, was over an asphalt mine in 312 AD. And that's just recorded. People were blatantly fighting over stuff like that.
I'm really scared that
before.
you're starting out your story with background on asphalt. That's really worrying to me.
Just you wait. So in 312 AD, the Seleucids and the Nabateans, which basically, I think Seleucids are ancient Syria, West Asia, and the Nabateans were like ancient Arabians. They were like from Arabia kind of area.
Oh, cool.
I haven't got the time to be more specific, I'm afraid.
It's fine.
They knew this shit was valuable, basically. So people fighting over fuels and rocks is nothing new, okay?
Wow.
Asphalt was used in traditional Islamic medicine to cure various ailments, and the Arabic word for it was mummia, I think. Mummia, something like that.
It's so close to Moomin for a joke.
We're going to call it mummia. The ancient Greeks, Persians, and others in that zone also got on the trend and used asphalt as a medicine. Doctors would...
Oh no, here we go. Oh no.
Doctors would use this asphalt preparation as an ointment that you could apply to cuts, bruises, broken bones, and they would prescribe it to people with stomach ulcers or tuberculosis, and they would ingest the asphalt mix. Now, how do you feel about ingesting an asphalt
What is my
mix?
face saying? It's not good.
It's disgusted.
This is gross. Why? It can't be good for you.
I'm sorry, Cassie, but if you think this... Okay, by the time we get to the end of my story, if you think this is gross, you are going to be wishing you could ingest...
my story was bad.
You're going to be wishing you could ingest some
my
asphalt.
story's going to be Disney, I have a feeling.
You're going to be craving the asphalt by the end of my story, okay?
Oh, no!
Then, medieval Europe starts happening. We got the Crusades. What century is that?
Oh, Crusades. I want to say 1600s.
11th century.
Nowhere near.
And European soldiers are coming back from places like Persia and Arabia.
1600, what am I thinking?
It's okay. It's right, you don't have to be qualified. I'm the only one who would fail at life if I mess that up. So they're coming back from Persia and Arabia, these kind of places, with stories about this rare, mysterious, valuable drug that has incredible healing powers. So Europe wants mummia too, and they start trading for it. If you went to an apothecary back then, it would have been one of the most expensive and rarest medicines you could get. Not just any old apothecary merchant could have got their hands on it, especially far out in the British Isles, for example.
Wow.
So, 12th century. Demand for mummia is growing, and of course, this causes an international asphalt shortage. Supplies are running out because this naturally occurring stuff is pretty limited, and thus European apothecaries are struggling to get hold of the valuable mummia medicine, which is in high demand. And this is when something a bit weird happened. Do you remember when I said that the ancient Egyptians had used a bitumen asphalt kind of waxy glue in the embalming process?
No.
At least in the 12th dynasty.
Okay.
They didn't always use it.
Okay.
So some Egyptian mummies have this stuff, I think, in the wraps.
Please no. Please
So-
don't. No.
People have been looting and desecrating
I
mummies.
knew you were going to say this. What the fuck? People leave the dead bodies alone. Stop drinking the mummy juice. This is what the
Just wait,
Sorry,
it gets
okay,
worse.
I'm so sorry.
It's gonna
We don't
get
have-
worse. Every moment you think you're safe,
my
it's
God.
gonna get worse. So, okay, looting, desecrating mummies is nothing new. Especially, Egyptian ones. Since people have been doing it since the time of ancient Egypt, they would put someone in a tomb, someone would sneak in there and nick some of the treasure, or, it's not a new thing. By the time medieval Europe comes along, there is therefore an awareness that lots of Egyptian mummies have got this black, asphalty, resiny wax stuff in them if you unwrap them. It's not the same as the asphalt that they're using for the traditional
It's diet
mummia
ass.
medicinal stuff, but it's kind of similar.
Yeah.
So during this asphalt shortage, medieval apothecaries over here get confused, or maybe just desperate. And they're like, oh yeah, that rare, expensive cure-all medicine tar stuff, you can get it from these really old embalmed Egyptian bodies. Interestingly, in addition to this, in Europe, people heard this medicine was called mummia, or mummia in Arabic, but when the medieval boffins transliterated it into Latin, they spelt it just M-U-M-I-A, like mummia. It's difficult to explain. I'll put it in the diary somewhere for you guys to read. Which, although was meant to mean this asphalt medicine from Persia, it was also the same word for a mummy, as in an embalmed, preserved corpse.
Oh, no.
So people reading about it were getting confused because they were the same spelling. If you really look into it, it actually gets a lot more complex than this, but basically, a bunch of medieval doctors and boffins wrote accounts about mummia that other boffins then misinterpreted, and it was like the telephone game. On one end, people talking about asphalt, and on the other end, it comes out like, okay, ancient Egyptian mummies, got ya. They mixed up the two.
What the fuck?
So, this confusion...
I wonder what kind of calamity this will cause.
This confusion of language and words, coupled with the fact that a kind of tarry, asphalty substance could sometimes be found in these embalmed ancient Egyptian mummies, meant that Europeans got the wrong end of the stick. And mummia became a cure-all medicine, basically, made of this black wax stuff we find in the mummies. Medieval boffins also then embellished this version of the mummia story. They said that true mummia could only be obtained from ancient Egyptian mummies because its healing properties were a result of various magical ingredients that had been mixed into the mummy during the embalming process. Things like aloe vera and herbs and resins and myrrh, things that they used. And there was a bit of a kind of mystery and hype about this because they were kind of suggesting that this was a mystical thing that the ancient Egyptians did that we've lost the knowledge for to create this healing stuff.
Then why are they putting it on dead people?
So...
Just someone ask the question. It's on dead people. It's not going to help you.
It all adds to the idea of mummia drug having healing powers, and it's super rare and limited and therefore extremely valuable. So, a very lucrative trade between Egypt and Europe began.
God bless business people and merchants. God bless them.
People dug up and looted ancient Egyptian tombs so that the mummies could be sold on to the apothecary merchants and presumably taken apart and scraped for any of this black asphalty wax.
How much history have we lost?
And it was being prescribed to sick people.
Sick rich people, I hope. Fuck them.
Sick rich people. Then there is another big misunderstanding. Sometimes when people inspected a mummy, they would find black-coloured exudations.
Oh no.
Stuff that the body is basically discharged after you die. People were finding this black stuff inside the skulls of the mummies, and sometimes inside the stomach cavity of the mummies.
No.
Again, some mistakes in translation, some mistakes in things that elite doctors of the time said, and now you've got a bunch of people thinking that the black stuff inside the mummies' bodies is the mummia. So, they start scraping out this organic, dried up black stuff from the insides of the mummies and prescribing it.
I want the asphalt. I'll take the asphalt, actually. Can I just get an order of asphalt?
Even ingesting the gluey wax from the wraps now sounds a bit better, doesn't it? Than the black exudations. It's already sounded more agreeable to me. I'll have the mummy bandages anytime, thank you. Then there is another misunderstanding.
This is like an episode of Three's Company. It's so frustrating.
Demand for mummia became such that Egyptian mummy sellers, and it was a real job title. I'll show you guys
I'm
pictures.
doing gross face constantly. I'm my jaw keeps dropping.
They were now not just selling embalmed mummies, so the ones that might actually have the wax stuff in them because they've been wrapped up, but also just desiccated mummies, which means they've just been dried out in the desert.
Is this what starts that craze of like all those bits and bobs of people carrying around mummy dust and shit?
Yeah. To European, so the European apothecary merchants are now getting just these like dried out, because like the Egyptians didn't, embalm everybody. If you were poor, you just might be lucky if you get put in a pot and then just buried in the sand. So if you've seen a mummy, you might know that the mummy's flesh, when it dries out and is embalmed, generally darkens. You get an apothecary who's new on the scene, and they hear about this valuable black stuff with healing powers found on ancient mummies, and they look at the dried black flesh of the mummy. Yep. So medieval doctors and apothecary types now mistake the dried blackened flesh of the mummy as the
Are they taking the mummies and
mummia.
just like using a giant cheese grater and just like...
Literally.
No!
Literally.
No!
Literally.
That was a joke, Violet! That was a joke!
They were grinding up the flesh of the mummy, often the whole mummy, and this was now the cure-all drug mummia. People be eating ground up ancient dead people.
They're all cannibals.
The Italian surgeon Giovanni da Vigo, who was born in 1450, just for an idea of the time, defined mummia as an essential drug. Every pharmacy needs it, basically. He said, from the flesh of a dead body that is embalmed, and it is hot and dry in the second grade, and therefore it has virtue to heal over wounds and to staunch blood. The Swiss-German polymath, Paracelsus? I don't know. Who was born in 1493, called mummia intrinsic spirit, and said true pharmaceutical mummia must be from the body of a man who did not die a natural death, but rather died an unnatural death, with a healthy body and without sickness. The German physician Oswald Kroll, who was born in 1563, said mummia was the flesh of a man that perishes a violent death and kept for some time in the air. He also gave a detailed recipe for making tincture of mummia.
Now, if one woman was allowed to speak back then, this would have never happened.
It's probably true. How did he make his tincture? He made it from the corpse of a young red-haired man who had been hanged, bludgeoned on a breaking wheel.
I knew it was going to come from fresh corpses now. I knew they were going to run out of fucking mummies, and the fucking demand is going to be up here, and you're just going to start oh my god! What the Oh my god.
They exposed this hanged, bludgeoned body to the air for days,
Nick and Ginger.
then cut it into small pieces, sprinkled it with powdered myrrh and aloes, soaked it in wine, and then dried it. King Francis I of France reportedly carried a mummia preparation around with him in case of injury. In Egypt, people had made businesses out of searching for and looting tombs and desert burials. But Egyptian mummies are, of course, a finite resource, so it didn't take long for mummies to be in short supply. Egyptian mummy sellers, I will show you a photo of this on Instagram, couldn't keep up with demand, and so
Oh my god,
some of them started to manufacture false mummies. They were getting any old dead bodies, drying them out in the desert sun as a quick fix, 3-minute mummy ready meal option. You know, tired of waiting 1,000 years for your mummy to be ready? Bring it on down to mummy sellers are us. People were also scraping out old dead bodies, drying the contents, grinding it up, and selling it as mummia.
So we're just Soylent Greening, everybody. We're just living in Soylent Green. Charlton Heston is rolling around in the desert somewhere crying.
Europeans were importing the shit out of these false mummies and false mummia. By the 16th century, the mummy business had become so lucrative that people in Europe were also making fake mummies. In France, apothecaries were stealing, or sometimes buying at a discount, wink wink, the dead bodies of criminals who had been executed. They would dry them out in ovens and then sell the flesh. There were also plenty of rumours of European apothecaries digging up graves and stealing dead bodies to manufacture mummia.
This is necessary history to tell children. This is why have I not heard of this?
So,
It's everyone's dirty little fucking secret. Everyone's dirty secret.
the situation starts to get out of hand.
It is getting out of hand. It is.
I told you this was going to be bad.
Remember when there's that murder story of those two dudes in London or whatever who were nicking bodies and then they had to make bodies? If this is going on for centuries, that's been going on for centuries at this point.
Are you wishing for the asphalt now?
I will have a vial
Will you
of your
happily
finest asphalt.
Skip back to the asphalt mine. So, it's getting out of hand. During the 16th century, some people do start to sound their opposition. Some claimed mummia was valueless, that it didn't do anything. Some people thought it was dangerous to be ingesting flesh or stuff scraped out of mummies. And certain...
What a fucking genius. What a fucking genius.
And certain scholars were actually looking back at the history books and starting to piece together this timeline of mistranslations, misunderstandings, misinterpretations, exaggerations, and embellishments that had turned a simple Persian asphalt medicine into ground-up Egyptian mummy. Some also questioned how all these Christians in Europe, who have some strict frickin' ideas and rules back then, were apparently okay with eating dead Egyptian people. Even an Egyptian mummy merchant of the time, who admitted to collecting dead bodies and selling them, was quoted as saying that he was surprised that Christians, who, obviously thought they were so la-di-da and better than everyone else, so dainty-mouthed, could eat the bodies of the dead. They thought it was probably fucking gross and crazy. But they didn't care because it's a moneymaker. Take advantage of the gross, weird mummy-eating people in Europe, if you need to make the peas, and they're stupid enough to eat mummy. Also, I think it's probably important to point out here, if you think about the mainly Egyptian people who were procuring and selling the mummies, we could talk about looting antiquities and desecrating burials all day, but the thing to remember is, oftentimes, the looters, the people doing the digging and the hard work are doing it out of poverty.
Yeah.
It's desperate times. If you can make money from digging up an ancient dead body and selling it, you're gonna do it if you're desperate. It's the people pulling the strings from a safe distance, the rich merchants, etc., that are the true bad guys. And it's still the same situation today. Anyhow, mummia continues to be used into the 17th century. It is listed in important medical encyclopedias. Famous authors and thinkers like Thomas Browne and Francis Bacon write about it. Playwrights and poets talk about it. Even fucking Shakespeare references it. The physicist Robert Boyle, who was born in 1627, because it's the 17th century, praised it as one of the most useful medicines commended and given by our physicians for falls and bruises and in other cases too. So people still loving it in the 17th century. They're loving the ground up mummy.
Everyone's in so much pain back then that eating a dead body just like distracts you.
Just living in like rat world.
Ugh.
Rat and poo world. So it's basically at that point, it's as normal as like anything else in the pharmacy. Imagine going in to buy some ibuprofen from the chemist and you're like, oh, it's on aisle 3 next to the ground up mummy powder. By the 18th century, though, people are getting pretty skeptical about Mummia. It's getting more and more bad press and it gradually starts to fall out of favour as a medicine. No one was really prescribing it anymore. It was like more of a curiosity kind of thing that you just had. People are also starting to think up other ways to use ground up mummy. What else could you do with mummy powder, Cassie? If it's not a medicine.
Use it as a luck charm.
That certainly happened.
Jewelry.
Yeah. We heard about that paperweight of a mummy hand in episode 9.
Dare I say a mummy shake? I don't know.
That's
What
a bit
else do they use it
2018. Okay, they used it as paint.
Oh no.
In particular,
oh, yeah, I remember.
There was a pigment called mummy brown with
Just-
mummy powder in it.
What's wrong?
And
Who
still,
hurt you, Europe? 11th century to the 16th. Who hurt you?
as late as 1924,
Oh my god.
Mummia was still being offered for sale by a US pharmaceutical company.
I'm proud to be American.
So what was the moral of the story?
Fucking white people are weird.
That's better than what I've got as a moral. You're very right, and I think that is the main thing we've gleaned from this story. In addition, the importance of language and not don't translate stuff poorly.
That's the main lesson. It's like
also to
I
how
think
much
they
of
did
an
it on
extent
purpose.
was this all just like
it was a trolling monk.
it was just like,
I
oh
think they were
great,
power
we've got a
tripping off the
commodity
fact-
here. Yeah.
I think their power trip back in the day over the fact that they can read and write.
They
so
just
it makes-
wanted to propel the lucrative trade in mummies.
Yeah.
God, it's messed up. And okay, how bad was that? We went from asphalt down to like ground, like mummies and stolen
like my story
bodies.
is mild.
You still looking back at the asphalt with fond memories?
Oh god, it's better than the mummy stuff.
Okay, well we're going down a level deeper.
No.
Before we end my story, it's not completely over.
Oh no.
We're not safe yet. Because down that ground up mummy medicine rabbit hole, I also stumbled onto this little horrific thing.
Oh god, what terrible potion have you in store?
Have you heard of a mellified man?
No.
Mellified man is a legendary medicinal thing. It is described as a human mummy confection.
Confection?
Now let's just pause a second here, Cassie. Just take that in.
That's a word that means something quite different to what I think the context is here.
Just like mummy milkshake.
No.
Are two words that shouldn't go together.
Oh no, don't you fucking tell me! No!
Human mummy confection is...
You're breaking my
No.
spirit.
So back in the day, okay, we're talking like at least like 16th century, this like Chinese doctor, medical kind of genius, Li Shizhen, I think. He heard accounts from travelers that had ventured to Arabia, and they told him that, or he had heard that elderly Arabian men who didn't have long to live would essentially volunteer themselves to being mummified in honey, which would eventually create a candied dessert that also had incredible healing powers. It was essentially a kind of self-sacrifice because they would start the mellification process, getting honeyed up, whilst they were still alive, by ingesting only honey and bathing in honey.
I hate this world.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Their feces would eventually become pure honey.
Really?
And then they would die because they'd only been eating honey. And then, if that wasn't enough honey for you, They then put your body in a coffin or container and filled it with honey. It's a Winnie the Pooh nightmare. Like, this is like Winnie the Pooh on mushrooms.
Oh, Christopher Robin, I've got a honey bath for you.
Oh, God, it's so dark. According to the accounts from these travellers, after 100 years or so, these honey corpses had turned into a sweetie candy confection inside the honey coffin. And if you ate this stuff, it was capable of insane healing. It could mend broken bones and fix all kinds of health problems. And they
Break
said,
me off a bit of that toe right there.
Oh.
The confection was a rare and very, very expensive item that could be found in Arabian street markets. Now, mellified man, okay, I don't think there's any proof that this was actually a thing. And, I mean, at least not like the Chinese recorded.
Okay.
And even this, guy who wrote about it in the 16th century, even he wasn't sure it was entirely true.
Well,
because
here's
he's just,
the thing.
heard this from a friend of a friend kind of thing.
We wouldn't know, because obviously if it became quite a commodity, then that shit would be snacked up.
Exactly.
They ate it all.
They snacked it all. It might well have been inspired, though, by various cultures who have got some honey stuff involved with the funerary practices and dead bodies. Possibly the Assyrians used to embalm their dead with honey. Maybe the Egyptians did some honey stuff too. Alexander the Great was reported to have been put in a sarcophagus filled with honey. But the most certainty for this story's inspiration might come from Myanmar, or Burma, where they did preserve the bodies of some monks, for example, in honey. And it seems likely that, that's where this idea or story originated from, that someone had gone to Myanmar and heard about that. And it makes sense because honey is antibacterial, antiseptic, kind of preservative
Last
thing.
ages.
Chemically, it's all there, If it makes sense, if you have a culture where you're embalming the dead or preserving the dead, you could use some honey. There's also some gross stuff out there, people, that you need to look at, such as people using human fat as a potion. It's like a healing thing. It's all about, I don't know. There's a lot of rich hipsters out there who've collected antique apothecary jars and stuff with human fat written on them. It's pretty gross, but kind of cool thing to have in your house.
I went into a hole of watching a YouTuber, I'll have to put it in the diary, of a bottle collector. They just go out digging for bottles. They had a collection, which I subscribed. I was very fascinated. Art Deco bottles, in different colors with just beautiful bottles that are pristinely in condition.
Sweet.
Just dumped carelessly in a pile.
I love old bottles. And the other story it reminds me of is Admiral Nelson, who died in the Battle of Trafalgar. They preserved his body for the voyage back to England and his funeral by putting him in a brandy barrel.
No, and they drank it, didn't
and
they?
the rumor was that people had drunk from it. And then there was a brandy and port cocktail that was inspired by this, which was called Nelson's Blood. God, people, Europeans, freaking weird. There we go. That was my disgusting story for today.
I'm traumatized, but I appreciate modern medicine a little more.
Would you much rather have some tasty asphalt?
Oh yeah, for sure. I go right back to the asphalt. 100%. I was a fool to pass up on the asphalt.
I think the most interesting thing about all of those stories was the idea of ingesting power somehow, or human bodies having some sort of magical...
It's always about that.
Magical kind of thing, that can create extraordinary healing if you ingest people.
I don't know why we feel like we have to consume... we literally have to make it part of our bodies, I guess, in order to, become one with it, because that's all we know.
I think it just shows our brains are, or something about us is, geared to thinking we are so special that even our dead body parts are magical.
Yeah. Well, they aren't. Don't.
Yeah, don't go... I don't want some comments, Twitter comments about that you cannibalized each other. It's bad enough with the vampires, and don't be crazy.
Oh, man. Right, so I'm calling my potion story Snake Oil, the Wild West's greatest deception. Ooh-wee. So I'm basically going to run down the history of snake oil, why it's a term now associated with like fake medicine and all that, and the sort of the origin of it. So here we go. The origin. All right. So from Wikipedia, snake oil is a euphemism for deceptive marketing. It refers to the petroleum-based mineral oil, or snake oil, quote unquote, that used to be sold as a cure-all elixir for many kinds of physiological problems. Many 19th century United States and 18th century European entrepreneurs advertised and sold mineral oil as well, mixed with various active and inactive household spices, compounds, but containing no property of snakes, as snake oil liniment. So basically a bunch of people selling these things as snake oil, but it's, not always the case. How do we get snake oil?
Do we put a snake in oil and just leave it in there for a really long time?
Well, I didn't research the process, really.
Is it like Smarties vodka, where you just get some cheap vodka and throw some Smarties in and make a gross concoction?
Yeah, basically they're chucking shit in, but they apparently, like, you make an oil from the snake, and you, like, make the oil from it, or you can use
snake
the
venom, or like...
Well, there's the thing, you can use venom, but you can also just, like, use the fucking snake. And, like, basically
slice it. Oh my god.
Squidge it and...
Oh no.
What's the word when you slowly boil
Squeeze?
something down?
Oh. I don't know.
Okay, it doesn't matter. Okay, so basically what happens... Yes.
Reduce.
Yeah.
Reduce it down.
So yeah, you reduce that snake down, I think. I'm going to make sure, because I read briefly,
It'd be
but
like
I wasn't
making
really...
a snake stock, wouldn't it?
Yes. So basically what happens really is that Chinese immigrants come en masse to the U.S. during this time, and they're building the railroads. They're building the first transatlantic railroad. They immigrated between 1849 and 1882, 180,000 Chinese. The vast majority of the workers came from peasant families in southwestern China and were signed to contracts that ran up to 5 years for very low wages compared with their white counterparts. That was from David Howard Bain's book, Empire Express. Among the items, and this is from NPR.org, among the items the Chinese railroad workers brought with them to the United States was snake oil. Made from the oil of the Chinese water snake. So basically, they're naturally oily. I can cut that whole front bit. But yeah, which is, they came with snake oil. Cool. And what happened is they'd be working on the railroads and they get backaches and stuff. And so what they'd use is they'd rub snake oil.
So they're bringing their their cultural medicine and healing and stuff over with them when they migrate. And what's happening
is white people see this and they go, "Oh, snake oil, that's great. It's amazing," because they try it and it works.
Yeah.
And
of course it does.
And then what they do is they make their own version out of rattlesnakes.
Ooh.
So word soon gets around that snake oil medicine was a commercial opportunity not to be missed. In 20th century, this is from Independent Pharmacist, Beware of Snakes article. The snake oil salesman became a stock character in Western books and films, but these are based on real life people. It's very accurate to what was happening. So traveling medicine shows would tour the Western states, first by horse-drawn wagon, later by rail. And in small towns, what they'd do is they'd peddle this patent medicine, or snake oil or whatever. But they do it first by doing entertaining stuff. So they would have...
Like a little circus.
Exactly. It is exactly like this. So typically we included a freak show, a flea circus, musicians, magicians, often more akin to a circus than a medical service. Other entertainers such as acrobats, muscle men, exotic dancers, and exhibitions of trick shooting would keep the audience entertained until the slick-talking snake oil salesman would deliver his pitch and sell his highly profitable medicine.
Wow, and after you've been spun out by all those acrobats and clowns, you've never seen a clown before, and then you're like, whoa, buy the snake oil. You're like, yes, give me the snake oil.
Can cure any disease.
I want in on this weird circus life.
Yeah, smooths wrinkles. It prolongs life. Removes stains. Cure all for anything. You've got a cure? I've got the cure. Snake oil. And they'd have people in the audience that are paid.
Out of costume.
Yeah, going like, "Oh man, I've actually used this I've actually used this. It actually does work.
Have the clown dressed
like,
disguised as an old man with a
reason-
crutch, coming up, can you heal me? Oh, I'm suddenly so much better. I can dance and ride this unicycle round.
Oh, my penny farthing.
Suddenly been cured.
Exactly that. So they'd have people set up and stuff like that. And of course it was a con. The doctor was seldom either a pharmacist, doctor, or physician, but he was a salesman. And to his credibility, accomplices would do all that shit. And it would have left town long before any buyers concluded that the miracle product they had bought was not what was promised.
Doesn't this remind you of that, what's that thingy? The Imaginarium, the...
Oh,
Dr.
Panarsis.
The one with the...
I really forgot most of it.
It was very whimsical and quirky, and there was Colin Firth and Johnny Depp.
I vaguely remember it, but I remember not liking it.
It was a bit too precocious for me and too whimsical. There's only a certain amount of whimsical I can handle.
Yeah.
Before it becomes whimsy.
There's only so many costumes we can see in Johnny Depp in before he just becomes a caricature.
Yeah.
So we get to our hero, Clark Stanley. He is the biggest snake oil salesman there is. Big deal. He's a cowboy turned hero. He did an autobiography. I mean, he was doing the Katie Price autobiography back in the day. The title, The Life and Adventures of the American Cowboy, Life in the Far West by Clark Stanley, better known as the Rattlesnake King. That's his self-title for his self-book.
King, do you have a little rattlesnake tattoo on his butt?
He's got
little rattlesnake gold rings.
I'll show you a picture of him because I took it earlier. Okay.
I bet his wife had a taxidermy snake scarf. Oh wow, he really knows how to work the snakes, doesn't he? So he's the biggest, baddest snake oil salesman. It's all these rattlesnakes. People are making a fucking killing. It's the equivalent of $4,000 today for some snakes. So this is just selling the diet suppressant lollipops, but snake oil.
So Mr. Stanley claimed that starting in 1879, 11 years after working as a cowboy, he studied for more than 2 years with the Hopi with a medicine man at Walpi, Arizona. This supposedly included learning the, quote, secrets of snake oil.
Wow.
There's also some evidence to suggest that the Hopi did use snake grease for some ills. With the help of Boston druggists, he began marketing his product at Western medicine shows. In 1893, he and his rattlesnakes gained attention at the World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago. Later, he went on to establish lots of facilities in Massachusetts and Rhode Island. 1916. The Pure Food and Drug Act is passed.
Ooh.
In 1906, they have a look at Stanley's concoction, and it was found to be of no value. It was found to contain mineral oil, a fatty compound thought to be beef, capsaicin from chili peppers, and turpentine. He was taken to court and fined $20. He was fined $20, which is nothing. It would have been $443 in 2017. The term snake oil, of course, became the well-established meaning of a concoction sold as medicine that has no value. So, from the Pharmaceutical Journal, modern day research suggests that Chinese water snake oil may indeed have health benefits. So they were using rattlesnakes.
They didn't bring their snake oil over from there if it didn't work.
So it has a high content of omega-3 fatty acids. In 1989, an analysis of snake oil bought in San Francisco's Chinatown found that it contained 20% icosapentaenoic acid. Sorry, people. Which is more than is found in popular omega-3 food sources like salmon. Omega-3 fatty acids have been shown to reduce inflammation and are alleged to offer many other health benefits. Although many of the claims made for them, often by the modern equivalent of the snake oil salesman, are unproven, it does appear that they help lowering systolic blood pressure, improving cognitive function, reducing the risk of dementia, and relieving depression.
Wow.
A few years ago, sorry.
Cool stuff.
But a few years ago, also researchers in Japan evaluated the effects of Chinese snake oil on a number of outcomes in mice. They found that compared with lard, snake oil significantly improved the rodent's maze learning ability and swimming endurance.
Wow.
So in traditional Chinese medicament, it is a medicine utilizing the fat extracted from the water snake, Anhydrus chinensis. It is a rubefactant or ointment and is applied topically to relieve minor physical pain. It's been used in traditional Chinese medicine for many centuries and is relatively common medication prescribed by doctors, ascribing the practice of traditional Chinese medicine, which we can sort of compare to sort of like a long ancient tradition of holistic medication. Its effectiveness as medicine has been a historical source of controversy in the Western world, where there is much confusion over its origin and its constitution due to Clark Stanley.
He was like an social media influencer.
He is a cultural appropriator. No. So basically what happened was Americans were like, oh, any old snake oil will do. It didn't do anything. It caught on as a craze. Lots of people made money. And then it completely destroyed the reputation of Chinese medicine in general to this day. To this day, there's a lot of confusion and mistrust with Chinese medicine for a number of factors, but I think this is a main contributor. So yeah, that's the story of Clark Stanley and the fuck up of snake oil.
That was super fascinating. I had no idea.
Really?
And I think it's pretty cool that, I love that they brought their, because if you're migrating, you're only going to take the most important stuff with you. So
the stuff that you need.
That was good
and they're
stuff.
Working on railroads, and people are seeing that they are working as hard as they are during the day, but then they put on their muscle ache snake oil, and then they're ready to go the next day, whereas they're struggling, so they're like, oh, let me have some of that. Oh, it works. Let's get these rattlesnakes. Doesn't have the high content of omega-3. Doesn't help inflammation or anything. It's just psychosomatic bullshit. And then you get typical Old West nonsense where people make a giant business out of conning people and everyone applauds. America!
It was literally like the old-fashioned version of like the appetite suppressant lollipops.
Yes. But yeah, there's modern people who roleplay as medicine men of the Old West, traveling medicine men. Do yourself a favor and check some of them out. They're really good.
That must
really
be a
fascinating. Laugh. It's really great.
That's like dressing up
and
as like
do
a crazy
all the traditional,
circus person.
Yeah, and they do all the traditional trying to trick the crowd and like getting them all hyped up for his medicine, and then he does a sales pitch. It's really good. Sweet.
Okay, it's today's mini podcast tarot reading.
All right, so it looks like once more the death card has appeared for us.
Ooh.
But it is reversed. Upright, death is a card of transformation and typically refers to needing to start over by letting go of the past. However, in the reverse position, death can mean that you're on the verge of meaningful change but are resisting it. So this is in our recent past as far as the podcast. It offers you the opportunity to embrace rather than resist. See what wonderful possibilities become available as you say yes to change. As you learn to release the past and surrender to the present, the future becomes brighter. To support the process, repeat this affirmation. I embrace change in all forms. So maybe we're resistant a little bit of change somewhere along the way.
Kind of makes sense.
For present, we've got 9 of Cauldrons, which simply is sort of like contentment, satisfaction, gratitude, wish come true.
Ooh,
that's present. And
that's
I
pretty
feel like
positive.
We've been really positive. We've been talking together about the podcast in a really positive manner. We've been really happy with some changes that we've made. Well, not changes, additions, like the tarot reading. And, just people have been giving us nice compliments as we grow, getting our quality better and better as I become a better editor. Pretty soon, maybe we'll have 2 mics and I'll be able to mix our stuff separately. I'm pretty positive, though. I'm feeling good.
It's been great. We're feeling very thankful for lots of the good feedback we've had.
Oh my gosh, it's so wonderful. And considering we're just a startup out of nowhere, it's been so nice. I'm literally doing this in a spare witch room. In my tiny dungeon
with a $5.99 crystal ball
and one microphone between us, and trying to mix that is a nightmare. Okay, so future, Page of Swords. So this one's like new ideas, curiosity, thirst for knowledge, new ways of communicating. As the swords relates to communication, it suggests that you are exploring a different way of expressing yourself with others. You may be drawn to the public speaking. So, like, basically this podcast. If you're looking for a sign to move ahead with a new project, it's like a go for it symbol.
It's like a green light.
So this is in the future, like, it's a go for it. Whatever instincts we have with an idea, we should definitely take it and run with it, because it's going to, so the Page of Swords often expresses a level of tension or conflict, but it's a bundle of energy that maybe, is too much to handle sometimes. So maybe that's like when we go back and forth talking about the podcast, and then I come up while we're both at work, I'm like, just throwing a million ideas out there, and you're like, write it down, Cassie, write it down. I think it's, maybe in the future.
Yeah, I hate to be a curb your enthusiasm kind of person, but
it's good to ground me so I don't go crazy.
Yeah, it's a good balance of, like, I'm the, like, refined, cautious one, and you're like,
this is why you're in charge of the social media.
Let's do everything, yeah!
If you want to know who does everything with Instagram, Twitter, and all that, Violet's in charge, because I don't want to have to pop off on anybody.
Yeah, I'm the only one who can control myself when we get Twitter comments about vampires and people using Ouija boards and taking bad advice from the
Violet
podcast.
Will be really nice
seriously,
to you guys.
Do not go stealing mummies, grinding them up and eating them, or do not follow the steps in that demonology thing, because I'll be deleting those tweets.
Blocked. Okay,
it's your fault.
It's not a bad reading. It makes sense. And you notice the color coordination here? And then that shift?
Yeah.
And the reason why I chose, like, these cards fell on the floor, so I had to keep them as our reading.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
3 exactly, so it's a bit auspicious. Can't wait for our beach trip tomorrow. Sorry, that was random.
So I didn't talk about this in the beginning bit where we were kind of venting our things.
Oh yeah, this is the. Oh yeah, you said you were going to talk.
This is why we're ending on this. It's a bit of a funny one today, guys.
Okay.
Well, not funny. It's a bit different.
Okay.
It's an RIP.
Oh shit.
So I just literally have to take a moment of silence for Beth Chapman, who was probably best known as the wife of Dog the Bounty Hunter.
Oh no! Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I know how much that show means to you.
So she passed away age 51 on Wednesday.
Oh no, so young.
And Beth was, and still is, one of my idols. Like, my sister and I were both devastated when we heard that she passed away, because we were literally raised by Dog the Bounty Hunter TV show. I know it sounds crazy, but it really did strike a chord with us. We were, like, fascinated. I think it was just because it was such a million miles away from small town rural England. Like, in another lifetime I would love to have worked in a bail bonds office in Hawaii. And for me, Beth was the ultimate woman. Leather fingerless gloves with giant pink false nails, high heels. She was doing all the mum stuff, cooking, did her makeup at the wheel of the bounty hunting vehicle, like cussing out criminals. She was like an absolute tigress, and just like truly an idol of mine, up there with Judge Judy and Dita Von Teese.
Yes.
Absolutely legendary woman, and it's that thing of, like, the women that I look up to have that same thing in common of they can be badass, they are bosses, they are the best at what they do.
And they love femininity.
Yeah, and they're confident with their persona, I think.
Yeah,
and they're unafraid to be glamorous.
Yeah, I love a bit of glamour.
And also, Dog and Beth's relationship, their, like, romance, was so inspiring and sweet, as much as you can garner from a TV show.
Yeah.
And I don't always agree with, like, all of their beliefs or, like, their political stance or whatever, but just as a marriage, they seemed, like, devoted and, like, to genuinely really love each other in a very raw, realistic kind of marriage.
Yeah.
So, yeah, announcing the death of his wife and partner for many, many years, because they'd known each other, I think, from when Beth was, like, a teenager. Dog wrote, "It's 5:32 a.m. in Hawaii. This is the time she would wake up to go hike Cocoa Head Mountain. Only today, she hiked the stairway to heaven.
Aww.
We all love you, Beth. See you on the other side."
Oh no, that almost... Oh.
I know, it's so sad. So that's our little RIP moment. Needed to just show our love.
That's a
But
shame.
total idol.
Yeah, she's a wonderful lady.
Until next time then, guys.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.